Hello and welcome to Secure The Insecure, hosted by Johnny Seifert. This is the celebrity mental health podcast where I say it's okay to not be okay. And if you have the same mantra as me, then before we get to today's guest, please subscribe to Secure The Insecure whilst you're listening or watching. And at the end of the episode, leave a 5-star rating and a review. And let me tell you about my guest today. My guest today is a dear friend of Secure The Insecure, who you've heard for many, many times on the podcast. She's a singer, a presenter, a podcaster, a life coach, and a relationship expert. And she's just wrapped on Celebs Go Dating Season 12 and is here for her own deep dive to analyse the vulnerabilities that the celebs went through and also her own as they were showcased in the latest season. And away from the show, she has seen a massive success this year with her LuAnna's podcast alongside Louisa Zisman, which ended up then selling out the London Palladium, no doubt, which obviously she spoke about in a previous episode, and solving your dilemmas on her platform, The Relationship Place, to help you become a better person, whether it's your own confidence or if you're having problems in your own relationship. So without further ado, I'm delighted to welcome back to Secure The Insecure. It's my dear friend, it's Anna Williamson. Hello, Anna.
Oh, Johnny, what an amazing introduction. Although, can I just say two things before we start? Firstly, yes, everybody, please give a 5-star review to this excellent podcast. I know how important those reviews are. And secondly, a singer. I am flattered that you put singer in my little introduction. I would say slightly rubbish singer, but I'll go with it.
Well, this is the other problem with someone like you, Anna, is that because you've been in the industry for so long, a lot of people will only know you for just Celebs Go Dating, or obviously people will know you from Splash in your swimming costume, or some people know I've been around a long time. I remember those days. Or people will know you from CITV.
I love you. This is why I love you, because, well, I love you for many, many reasons, as you know. We've worked together, we've played together for a long time, but you also, we go back, it's the nostalgia. This is what I love about you, JS.
Well, and that is literally why I will champion you to the end of time, because most people won't remember you going on to Natic and going, oh my God, look, here's Recess. And I'm like, go on. And then all the press came and I was like, Anna Williamson was a kids presenter, obviously, when CITV said they're crazy, but you were a singer in the 90s. But that's why I find these episodes really important, because it's not just about you and Celebs Go Dating. People think, well, that's it. She's coming. She's suddenly this coach on Celebs Go Dating. That's it. You've got such a career behind you as well.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, babe, I think people often, there are some exceptions, but I think mostly with all of us that, waft around on the telly or in entertainment or in this world of showbiz, people often see kind of the, almost the end product almost, don't they? What they don't see are the years of grafting and hustling, of rejections, of learning your craft, going away, coming back again. And gosh, I've been in telly now for, oh my God, this shows my age. So I'm 42 now. I started when I was 17, so 25 years. I need to have a birthday party. 25 years in telly I've had.
But it's 25 years in telly, which then you separate into different sections, because you've got for 25 years and a lot of people in your industry or types of you know what I mean, basically would have started in kids telly, then they've graduated into adult telly and just doing normal programs, like a holiday series or ones that are like daytime-ish. Then you've got those who then go on a reality show like a Strictly or Dancing on Ice, and then you've got those who are hosting their own shows, and then you've got the Shiny Floor Saturday night shows, and you think, well, that's Ant and Dec, and they're the only ones who've graduated to that level. And it's like there's so many different layers into it. And as you talk about the rejection, also it's not just programs, it's also channels. So you were part of ITV, you then go to E4, you've been a bit at the BBC, like you have to go around, and that's also rejection.
As a coach, like, and as a therapist, like, I talk a lot about resilience and practicing resilience. And I don't think these things are, I think these things are, they're not even a happy accident. I almost think they're sort of by design, really. But I guess really, but without sort of blowing my own trumpet, but I am sort of resilience personified, really, because 25 years of any career, I think, regardless of what industry you're in, but especially one that is very fast paced, it's forever changing, it's subjective, it's objective, it's, for years the reason why I got into sort of therapy and coaching was because I realized how beholden I was to channels, networks, production companies and execs saying yes to me. And I realized that was quite a precarious position to be in, because I don't think you can then be picky or choosy as much as you can be, I think, unless you sort of work on your own self-worth and your other strings to your bow. And I felt very out of control, I think, in a way, because it is an interesting career. As you know, like being a TV presenter, being a broadcaster, it's not like you go into a medical degree for 7 years and you're kind of, it's a transferable skill where you can pretty much pick up any job anywhere because you have that qualification. you know, TV and broadcasting journalism, as you know, as I know, it's a big old world out there. There's a lot of people vying for the same job, so you have to keep hustling. So I think resilience has always been key for me, but I feel very grateful that I really did learn throughout the years. And some of the rejections were really hard, like when Sunati came to an end. That was particularly difficult, because, you know, I spent 5 years at GMTV, you know, at CITV, a flagship, you know, morning show, and a new boss came in, clean sweep, as they say, came in with a broom, and decided that that show was not something they wanted to keep on their slate. And so a whole department of 35 people went, and that was a hard one to swallow, because especially when I think like 573 shows of Genetic, it's a lot of telly, and then suddenly you realize all of that hard work, poof, like a puff of smoke, it's gone, because a new boss has come in wanting to do things differently, which is fair enough, everyone's entitled to do that. But it kind of left me feeling like I had nothing for a while, you know, but then I learned very much, particularly through that job, and that rejection really did teach me that, you know, my dad has always been my biggest champion, really, and he's the king of positive, and which is, you know, apple doesn't fall far from the tree for sure with him and me. And he always says, like, you know, when one door closes, another will open. And I do really remember thinking, I just can't see how I'm ever going to get an opportunity like this ever again. You know, the pinnacle of kids TV, ITV, Saturday, Sunday morning telly. I'm never going to be able to replicate that. And then look, proof's in the pudding. You keep reinventing, you keep working hard, you keep being polite and nice and humble, and work hard for your opportunities, and be grateful of what you get, and be pleased for others when they get those opportunities. And yeah, I think if you keep hanging in there, you know what, you get rewarded. And you know what, me getting Celebs Go Dating, dare I even say it, was even more of a triumph for me personally as a job, because it combined my two greatest loves, TV hosting and therapy, all in one wonderful go. And here I am 6 years later.
Let's just delve a little bit deeper into that, Anna. You mentioned when one door closes, another one opens. And as an analogy, it's a very nice analogy. Same as everyone's on their own pathway.
It's a bit twee, isn't it?
Well, this is what I want to know. As with your counsellor head on, if you're giving that advice to someone, when one door closes, another one opens, you've got to have that closure. And then you've got to go on that grief journey of going, right, this has happened. I've lost the job.
Yeah.
What is my self-worth? Then you dwell, then you go, right, what am I now going to do and be proactive? And how do we get back on the saddle, so to speak? But is it that type of phrase, like everything happens for a reason, that when you think things aren't going well, it's almost like saying, look, I need to get out that job, or I need to get out that relationship, and then the positive will happen? Because it's sometimes we get so combustive going, oh my God, I'm getting so much anxiety over my job, over my relationship, I just need to end it. If I end it, I've got nowhere to go. Is it going, well, look, just leave, and at some point, maybe a day, 2 days, a week, a month later, it will all work itself out?
So this is such a great question. And I think, like, I know myself how hard it is, as you say, in relationships, in jobs, particularly those two things, actually, of feeling the fear of the unknown, feeling the fear of change. And it's really normal for us all to feel like that, because we all essentially, you know, we fear the unknown, you know, and we want to be in control of our situation. And when something is open-ended, it can be highly worrying. So we can just stick to what we know. It's safety. It's a safety blanket, which is why people stay in bad relationships. It's why people stay in jobs that are unfulfilling, because the unknown is far scarier than just putting up with what they've currently got. So what I often say is about getting those ducks in a row, really. It's about really tuning in and being introspective. And I mean, I'm a big fan of a pros and cons list, to be honest. I mean, it's not a very technical tool to use, but really drilling down and asking yourself, what is this job, relationship, insert whatever, what is this giving me? What is it giving me? And what is it not giving me? And often when you really start to be honest with yourself by just writing down and talking through in your mind, or with a coach or a therapist, really what your situation is, you often find yourself coming to that conclusion. And you'll often find that little nugget is then brewed. I've just come off doing my podcast, LuAnna's podcast, and we had a big dilemma. We often get big dilemmas in, and a woman who's worried about leaving her relationship because, in her words, I have a good lifestyle. But actually what she was explaining to us is that she's actually in a very emotionally abusive relationship. So it's really weighing up, what what actually, like for her, what is this good lifestyle then? Let's break that down, you know. And actually that's where the clarity comes in. And change, as we know, is fundamentally terrifying for most of us to do. But it's about a mindset, and also, sure, doing a little bit of due diligence as well. Some people come to me and they want coaching. Right, that's it. I'm going to pack in my job and I'm just going to, you know, hope for the best. I hate my job, you know, and so we can work with that. We go, well, that's great. That sounds like, you know, you just want to just, you know, go for it. But we've got to be realistic. Do you have finances that can support you whilst you potentially don't have a job? Do you know what I mean? We have to be sensible. Do you have dependents that we need to be, you know, consider about? So you can have that big want, goal, wish, dream, and then we can just slightly step it back and just work out what those actual practical steps to kind of minimize risk might also look like. Because I have some of those changes been forced upon me, which I didn't want. And would I have left my show? Hell no, of course not. Has time and evidence told me that actually those decisions have been okay and have led to other different, better, more fulfilling things? Yes. So I think if you have the faith in that and you have a can-do positive attitude about that, you are more likely to seek that. Like, you're someone, Johnny, that I have no doubt, I'm not even saying this to be nice or flatter you, I have no doubt at all that you will excel constantly in your career, because you are extremely astute. You know your job. You know there is nobody out there that is a more thoroughly researched interviewer, and because you have that level of passion and that work ethic, you will always succeed.
You make me cry. You manage to make me cry every time I speak to you both.
Oh, but it's true. But do you believe that statement when I say that?
No, and I had a very good conversation with, I think you might know, Chuck Thomas, don't you?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Well, there's a little shout out to Chuck Thomas. He actually listens to this
Right
as well.
back in
So.
my kids' days, right?
Well,
back
exactly. So he was, I think he was at CITV as well.
Yeah,
I think he
with
began
me,
with.
yeah.
And then he went to Quizmania and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I was talking to him the other day. Drop name. What a big name to drop name. No one goes for, like, I don't know, some big stuff. I go for a Chuck Thomas. That most people haven't heard of. Anyway, we were talking about imposter syndrome, and he was saying, look, the reason why you've got imposter syndrome is because you're so good at your job that you'll always go above and beyond, and you're not someone that ever gets complacent. And I'm like, that's true. And I care so much what people think. But at the same time, that imposter goes, well, I'm not going to be good enough, and I'm never going to be good enough. And I look at someone like you, and the amazing thing of something that you've done is that you had your niche, which again is kids telly. You then go to Good Morning Britain's former side, which was Daybreak, doing their Showbiz, completely different audience. And then the TV goes away. You obviously go off and become a counsellor, but then you start getting a new career in the media, doing all the skills you've learned. You're working in local radio at 3 counties, talking to a very niche audience. You're then talking on talk radio in a late night slot to a mainstream audience who's a lot older. And then you're trying to get back into TV, talking to that youth demographic where you started. And you're going all the way around in a circle, talking to all these different people. But you know yourself, you can adapt yourself and talk to those people, which a lot of people probably wouldn't think they could do. They know their niche, and that's all they're going to exploit.
Wow, I mean, that's such a massive compliment. And actually, when you describe it like that, actually, this is why I love talking to you, because you actually work as my therapist, whether you know it or not. But because you help me reflect back on what I've done and what I do, because I think we spend so much time, for me, I'm very much in the present and the future. Actually, I don't really stay in the past, which a lot of people do. But I think that's probably why I keep motoring on, and people are like, Anna, you're so busy all the time. It's like, I am, but probably not as busy as people think I am, because I have my children, and when you don't see me being busy, it's because I'm with my children. But yeah, I think it's learning your craft, it's learning what you do. But I think being a TV presenter, and certainly being, well, you'll know this, as a journalist, but also as working in therapy, I'm so honoured to work with people of all different ages, and I'm naturally curious about people. And I've always been able to, I don't want to sound up my own backside by saying, I've always had a gift, of reading people, but I've always naturally been able to kind of read the room, and rapport as a broadcaster, as an interviewer, and as a therapist is the number one skill you have to nail. So I guess for me, probably like yourself, Johnny, is whatever job I do, once bitten, twice shy, I always make sure I'm thoroughly researched and prepped. I think the 1 or 2 times in my life when I've tried to wing it, I've fallen flat on my face. And I think that, so whatever job I've been blessed to have had, as you say, whether it's doing a late night sex and relationships show on talk radio, you know, whether it's doing showbiz reporting or whatever, you know, whether it's doing kids telly, whether it's doing Celebs Go Dating and, you know, therapizing celebrities, whatever it is, I've always taken it really seriously. I think that's really important. And I think particularly in this day and age with television, and just the current climate that we're in a good way, I think that kind of chances and people that are winging it are kind of been filtered out a little bit. You kind of got to, there's too many good people out there, too much talent out there now, I think, for people to be either a bit of an a-hole, you know, and not very nice. I think those people are getting wheedled out as well. And I think you got to prove yourself more now. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but the proving yourself comes through almost your social media numbers as a way of proving yourself. It's not a case of just being good at your job and being that stable pair of hands. You know, we look at someone like Craig Doyle, who's been in the industry for so long, now hosting on This Morning. But again, he's not their star quality. So they would rather have Alison or Dermot in with Holly than Craig, even though Craig is very good at the job. And so you go, well, what's the social media following? What's the audience reaction? And it's like, the audience aren't getting the chance to get to know these people because straight away it's, well, they've got 2 million followers, they've got 10 million followers, right, they're a presenter. You look at how many TikTok stars are now becoming presenters, and we have to remember with TikTok especially, they're all edited pieces. Those pieces will be done over and over and over again. They can't do live telly, and yet they're being given the jobs because of their following.
That's a very good counterpoint, actually, that talent and graft alone, is very much having to compete with clickbait and social media numbers. You're absolutely spot on that. But I also think with that is, like, I've been doing this for 25 years, right? And I remember the trends coming around, and almost I feel like a bit of a wizened old lady now, you know, veteran. But I always remember, like, joking with Kate Garraway, you know, who I've worked with and, you know, consider a sort of loose friend, because we've always sort of hung around and worked together on and off on ITV projects in particular. And, you know, we always used to joke, you know, that we were just like, you know, like a fart, you'd fart in the wind, you know, you would keep sort of wafting back, you know. And I remember when I was in kids telly and coming through kids telly, and suddenly the you know, in the sort of 2000, suddenly all the, you know, Big Brother started and all of the reality shows started, and there was, you know, bred a different celebrity, these overnight celebrities with instant fame. And I remember with, you know, reality stars very much being, you know, the hot potato of the day when it came to telly jobs. And you suddenly see them, some of them getting other mainstream presenting gigs, which I remember at the time could feel really frustrating, because you'd think, well, I think I'm pretty good at this job, you know, but you'd be turned over for somebody that had a more of a profile and was more popular. And that could be quite hard to swallow. But then what I realized as sort of time went on is that if you keep grafting, if you just keep doing what you got to do, you know, just keep being a decent person, keep being true to yourself with what you do, and don't chameleon yourself just because of that's what the particular creative brief of that month is from that TV network. You know what I mean? Don't change for others. Be you, and trust me, your time and your USP will come round again. And I've seen my USP come round about 3 times now. I'm that long in the game, you know. And I actually remember going for castings maybe a few years into the reality TV sort of thing was very much at its height, and suddenly commissioners or execs were going, oh, you know, we've realized that reality TV is not for everybody, but, you know, they were realizing that some reality stars just didn't have that technical training in hosting a live OB. And suddenly they were kind of then pairing a reality star with someone that could anchor, that did have training in live television, someone like myself. And then suddenly there's that value that suddenly came back, and it's about having value. And suddenly it was like, well, okay, that's so-and-so, gosh, they're a safe pair of hands, because they can host that show and do it with someone that has a very little television experience, but they are famous. And I had quite a few jobs like that where I would consider myself to be the solid pair of hands that was helping to cushion the newbie. And you know what, you could be bitter about it and go, it's not fair, or I'm probably being paid less than them. Or, like I chose to be, I was just grateful that I was working and that someone had seen my value, and I found it a compliment that they thought I was talented enough to be able to anchor that and host that. And I really believe that talent and that mindset wins through.
A final point on that is, in the industry as a whole, we know that managers, commissioners, bosses change every couple of months or years. We also know that the people who are those safe pair of hands are the ones who are always going to consistently work. So you might have a big celebrity or big reality star come in, they host a show, it might be given a season or two, and then they're out again. Whereas the ones who are the safe pair of hands will always have that consistent work all the way through. Doesn't matter what day, what month, what year it is. They just know, let them get on because they're great and I don't have to worry about them.
You hope so. And, you know, and I think, you know, it's been quite nice, really. Kind of this industry is a funny old place. It's one that I feel like, it sounds very sad, but I don't know any different. It is like a family to me, like the world of telly. It's actually incredibly small, as you know, as big as it is. But when I see people like, you know, Kate Garraway or Ben Shepherd or Ranveer or Christine Lampard, you know, these are people that I've been, you know, even Holly Willoughby and people like that, I've been knocking shoulders with Fern Cotton for years and decades now. It's in an industry where you sort of sometimes feel you don't belong, because you talk about imposter syndrome, because you're never really at a job long enough to get your feet under that table. And it sounds really silly, but as a freelancer, you know, sometimes all you want is a little desk, you know, with your little chair that you go to every day. And I have had some of those jobs in telly. Like I say, GMTV 5 years, Nickelodeon, I was that for 2 years. So I have had those jobs within television. But I would say on the whole, you know, you are kind of a lone wolf really in an industry as a freelancer. So you do really have empathy and a real understanding of folks in your same situation. Like I think now, you know, being as a working mom, you know, I've got my kids, you know, I really lean into people like Laura Whitmore or Mel Schilling from Married at First Sight, who's got a daughter, Zoe Hardman, you know, to kind of, you kind of want some camaraderie, knowing, well, who does what I do similarly? And I'm always desperately asking for, like, well, how do you do the juggle? You know, and it's really cathartic when you don't want your mates and your peers to be struggling either. But it is cathartic to hear that they are really just juggling like you are too. And there is no secret formula. And I find that really quite comforting in this industry. And I find my experience working in telly just such a warm place. And, you know, I love working at Celebs. I find the team there, that is a family, really. I've been there 6 years, adore working on that show. And yeah, I just feel like I'm going to keep going as long as anyone wants to employ me. And even if they don't want to employ me, I'll make them somehow.
I will always employ you. You know that. I will always employ you. Whether it's getting can you just come in on Saturday night, please, just for me? Or can you come in on a Tuesday lunchtime? Because not that you've got anything better than do. Yeah.
I'll come and make it to Johnny anytime.
Right, let's talk Celebs Go Dating. So how did you find season 12? Because it was a bit different to the seasons we've seen between now and the Mansion series that we don't talk about.
You love that. Did you love that one or hate that one?
I despise that one.
Oh, you despise that. Some people loved it. Some people hated it.
They're stupid. They're stupid. So this year you had brunches, which obviously Mad at First Sight have the big dinner parties. You did brunch this year. So the final episode of each week was a brunch. How did you find that experience as a counsellor and as a presenter?
So yeah, we knew there were going to be some format changes this series. And, you know, you trust in the powers that be. No one is bigger than the show, as you know. And you know, season 12 now, it's actually really technically season 14 if you put the Mansion and the virtual one into play as well.
I don't. Stupid series. Carry on.
Everything, you know, it's the nature of telly, as you know, to keep evolving. It's a very competitive market out there, especially for dating shows. You've got to keep delivering and tweaking. So I have massive respect and empathy for our execs that have to keep the heart of the show, but obviously deliver on any of the little tweaks and changes to trying to keep making it feel fresh. So the brunches were a new format addition, and honestly, initially, Paul and I talked about it. We thought they'd be pretty dead. We didn't really think they'd be that eventful. You know, they genuinely were designed as a feedback session at the end of every week, because we realised that in previous series we hadn't really had a lot of the celebs all together at the same time. So we felt that with fewer celebs this series, by design, 6 celebrities, we would be able to unpack and explore their stories a lot more. So it felt prudent to get them all together. You know, when it's 13, 14 celebs, it's quite a lot. It's a bit chaotic. You know what I mean? It turns into a massive mixer. So, but with 6, you know, it was small enough to be able to do face-to-face feedback. You couldn't do that anymore. It would be far too long. And yeah, we didn't predict at all how quite dramatic they went. So I think at times, I mean, what you should remember as well is that at all times, the celebs are completely looked after from a duty of care perspective. and they were all fine about everything that happened throughout those brunches. And sure, we saw some explosive moments, but the storylines and everything that was explored on that, they actually went well, and they could be quite dramatic. But I think the aspect of the feedback was a good format point, in the fact that it helps make the celebrities be accountable of their decisions and communication and truth telling. And I think because some of those celebrities were struggling in the way they delivered that, that's why they ended up being so explosive. I mean, if they all came in and were just absolutely, yes, sorry, yes, thank you very much for dating me, but I don't think I'd like to date you anymore, thank you very much, bye-bye, I don't think we would have had the drama that ensued.
But I don't think you necessarily need the drama. I think for me, the stand-up moments were Adam Collard and you talking about when his mum left and he was 15 years old. Also him and Lottie at the end, that last therapy session together, and the way Paul looked after him. And then Mark Francis saying about how he never really felt love. For me, those were the stand-up moments. And those are the ones that you'll always remember, because you're going to carry on watching Mark Francis on Made in Chelsea and Adam on another TV show. And it's those values that are really important to carry on with them, so that you understand the journey they've been on.
I'd like to have done more of that. Without a doubt, my favorite part of doing Celebs Go Dating is doing my work, is doing the work as a coach and as a therapist in the world of dating and psychotherapy, is to unpack our celebrities and the reasons why they have found themselves at the dating agency. And my biggest proud moments are when we get those breakthroughs from the celebrities. And if we had more time, I would love even more of that.
Final question: is there a chance that there'll be a spin-off with Celebs Go Dating that just focuses on the therapy, whether as a podcast or as a bonus show? You know how Big Brother used to do Big Brother's bit on the psych?
Yeah. Yes. Do you know something that's so interesting? I would love that. And actually, I even mentioned this to the people that make the show, even again as last week, because I think I've definitely seen feedback from people that have watched the show that have enjoyed it, but have also asked for more of the therapy side of things that we've seen previously. That it's become apparent to me, certainly, and it's a lovely compliment, that how valued that part of the show is. And my hope is that that part of the show isn't lost in replacement of more drama. It was handled hand in hand really well, this series. But yeah, I would adore a spin-off series, a spin-off show, whatever it may be, where we unpack more of the unseen footage almost of when we deep dive our celebrities, because we're in with them an hour at each time we see them, it's an hour. So there's an awful lot of stuff that doesn't make the telly for obvious reasons, because of time constraints, but people are interested in knowing more, and I think the take homes are also really powerful.
Brilliant. Well, you can hear Anna Williamson on the LuAnna podcast. Check out the Relationship Place online for all your relationship ones and twos, and catch up on Celebs Go Dating on the Channel 4 website. If you love Celebs Go Dating like I do, Paul and Tom, along with many of the stars over the years, including Georgia Still, Amy Tapper, Navid Soul, Pete Wicks, Liam Ridden, Ryan Mark Parsons, etc., etc., etc. Basically, everyone who's been on Celebs Go Dating has been on Secure The Insecure in the past. Go and check out in the library those episodes. And if you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment, subscribe, and give that thumbs up. And on podcast, follow, review, leave a 5-star rating, and keep sharing on social media. I'm at Secure The Insecure Podcast and at Johnny Seifert is where you can find me. And let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay. I'm Johnny Seifert. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.